Hey everyone, I'm here to help you relax and drift off tonight. If you enjoy using these videos to fall asleep, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more calming content. Share where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I'd love to know. Now settle into a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's start unwinding together. The story began at Ashwood Manor, a venerable estate steeped in history and hidden amid ancient oak groves. The manor, passed down through generations, was renowned for its exquisite art collection and its labyrinthine corridors lined with relics of the past. At the heart of the grand drawing room hung a painting in a gilded frame, an imposing portrait of a young woman with eyes that seemed to hold both joy and unspeakable melancholy. For years, the family who dwelt in the manor, the Everetts, had whispered of a strange occurrence. The portrait's expression changed subtly from day to day, and most peculiarly, at night, it seemed to shift as if stirred by an unseen presence. While some dismissed it as the play of light and shadows in the vast room, others believed it to be the work of a long-forgotten enchantment, a secret locked within the brushstrokes of an enigmatic artist whose identity had been lost to time. It was on a crisp autumn evening that young Isabella Everett, then only 17, first noticed something inexplicable. As the household retired and the drawing room was left in near darkness, save for the flickering glow of a solitary candle, she crept out of her room to fetch a book from the library. Passing by the portrait, Isabella paused, struck by an unsettling realization. Where moments before the painted lady had worn a soft, placid smile, her lips now curved into an expression of poignant sadness. The eyes, once filled with gentle contentment, now sparkled with tears that seemed almost real. Isabella's heart pounded in her chest as she strained to make sense of what she had seen. Had the portrait truly changed, or was it her imagination? Determined to discover the truth, she resolved to return that night, armed with nothing but her quiet courage and an insatiable desire to unearth the mystery. In the nights that followed, Isabella became a silent observer of the painting. Hidden in a shadowed alcove near the drawing room, she watched as the portrait's expression evolved with the phases of the moon. On nights of a full, radiant moon, the painted woman seemed to smile with bittersweet delight, her eyes sparkling with hope. But on cloudy, forlorn nights, her face took on an expression of deep grief and regret, as if haunted by memories too painful to bear. Isabella confided in her closest friend Jonathan, a thoughtful young man with a penchant for local lore. Together they pored over ancient diaries and faded letters in the manor's attic, seeking clues about the portrait's origin. They discovered cryptic references to a talented, yet troubled artist who had once been commissioned by the manor's ancestors, a painter whose brilliance was matched only by his melancholy. His final masterpiece, it was said, was created during a night of wild passion and deep despair, when the veil between the living and the spectral world was thinnest. Could it be that his spirit still lingered in the strokes of the brush, animating the portrait's subtle changes? The deeper Isabella and Jonathan delved into the past, the more they began to see the portrait not as a mere curiosity, but as a portent of hidden family secrets. Rumors had long circulated among the servants and retainers of Ashwood Manor about a long-ago tragedy, a forbidden love, a shattered engagement, and a curse that had been cast upon the family for daring to defy fate. The portrait they discovered was of Eleanor Ashwood, a young heiress whose beauty and charm were eclipsed only by her mysterious sorrow. According to a fragile yellow journal found in a locked drawer, Eleanor had fallen in love with a man deemed unsuitable by her family, and their secret liaison ended in heartbreak and scandal. Some believe that Eleanor's spirit was bound to the portrait, her emotions suspended in time, doomed to replay the sorrow of her lost love with every shifting shadow of night. Others whispered that the painting was a blessing, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, beauty and hope could be found in the expression of raw human emotion. As the line between curse and blessing blurred, the portrait took on an aura of both dread and wonder. One fateful night, compelled by a mixture of trepidation and resolve, Isabella returned to the drawing room alone. The house lay silent, its inhabitants lost in dreams, and the only sound was the steady ticking of an ancient grandfather clock. As midnight approached, she stepped forward, her candle trembling in her hand. Standing before the portrait, she felt as though the room itself was holding its breath. In that quiet, expectant moment, the painting's expression shifted once more. Slowly, the gentle sorrow in Eleanor's eyes gave way to a look of urgent pleading, a silent call for help that resonated deep within Isabella's soul. The air seemed to vibrate with a strange energy, and as if drawn by an invisible tether, Isabella reached out, placing her hand lightly against the cool surface of the frame. In that contact, a rush of sensations overwhelmed her, a flood of images, voices echoing from the past, and an overwhelming feeling of connection to Eleanor's unspoken story. For a few timeless moments, Isabella was no longer an observer, but a participant in a long-forgotten drama, a drama of love, betrayal, and redemption that spanned the generations. Haunted by her midnight encounter, Isabella became obsessed with uncovering the full truth behind Eleanor's story. She spent long hours in the manor's dusty archives, deciphering cryptic letters, portraits, and records that had been hidden away in locked chests. With Jonathan's help, she pieced together a narrative of passion and peril, a story of a forbidden love that had ignited family feuds and set the stage for a curse that lingered in the manor's halls. The more she learned, the more she began to understand that the portrait was not simply a passive relic of the past, but a living archive of emotion and memory. Eleanor's spirit, it seemed, was caught between worlds, a longing for the love that had been lost, and a desire to guide those who might learn from her tragic fate. As the portrait's nightly transformations became more pronounced, Isabella came to see them as messages, each shift in expression a chapter of a story yearning to be told, a secret pleading to be set free. Further research led Isabella to a reclusive art historian, Mr. Aldridge, whose expertise in forgotten masterpieces was renowned. In the dim light of his cluttered study, Mr. Aldridge revealed that the painter responsible for Eleanor's portrait was a man named Lucien Valcourt, a brilliant artist whose life had been marred by tragedy. According to his writings, Lucien had believed that art was a window into the soul, a means to capture emotions so profound they defied time. His final work, the portrait of Eleanor, was said to have been imbued with the very essence of her spirit, a feat achieved through a mysterious, almost alchemical process of blending pigment and passion. Mr. Aldridge explained that the artist had been known to experiment with techniques that bordered on the occult, seeking to evoke not just the physical likeness of his subjects, but their innermost feelings. It was no wonder, he mused, that the portrait would alter its expression under the influence of the nocturnal energies that swirled around Ashwood Manor. For Lucien, the act of painting was as much a communion with the divine as it was an expression of mortal love and sorrow. As winter's chill crept through the corridors of Ashwood Manor, the atmosphere grew heavy with unresolved emotions. Isabella, now deeply entwined with Eleanor's fate, began to experience vivid dreams, visions of Lucien passionately painting by candlelight, of Eleanor wandering the moonlit gardens of the manor, and of dark forces that sought to keep the family's tragic history shrouded in silence. These dreams, vivid and unsettling, urged her to confront the lingering shadows that had haunted the estate for so long. One particularly stormy night, when thunder rumbled like the drums of an ancient ritual, Isabella found herself drawn once more to the drawing room. The portrait, illuminated by the erratic dance of lightning and candlelight, bore an expression that was both anguished and resolute. It was as if Eleanor was pleading for Isabella to break the cycle of sorrow, a cycle that had imprisoned her spirit for generations. Determined, Isabella vowed to uncover the final piece of the puzzle, to bring closure to a tale of love lost in time suspended. Guided by her dreams and the cryptic messages hidden in the journal entries of Lucian Valcourt, Isabella discovered a secret compartment behind the portrait's ornate frame. Inside lay a bundle of letters, each one written in a delicate hand, telling the story of a love that defied the rigid constraints of society and fate. As she read these letters by the light of a single candle, tears streamed down her face. In them, Eleanor's voice came through, soft, tender, and filled with both longing and hope. With the truth laid bare before her, Isabella realized that the portrait's nightly metamorphosis was not a curse, but a cry for release, a plea for the past to be acknowledged so that its hold might finally be broken. Gathering the letters in the Journal of Lucian, she organized a memorial ceremony in the grand drawing room. She invited the remaining Everetts, local scholars, and townsfolk who had long been touched by the mystery of Ashwood Manor. On the eve of a new moon, when darkness reigned supreme and the portrait was expected to display its most somber expression, Isabella read aloud the forgotten words of love and sorrow. Her voice, steady yet imbued with deep emotion, filled the room with the echoes of a time long past. As the final word faded into silence, a palpable stillness fell over the gathering. Then slowly a transformation began. The portrait's features softened, and the sorrow that had once clouded Eleanor's face gave way to a gentle, bittersweet smile, one that spoke of acceptance, forgiveness, and the hope of a new beginning. The air shimmered with a luminous quality, as if the very essence of the painting had been set free. In that moment, it was as though Eleanor's spirit, long imprisoned by pain and regret, finally found solace. The curse of forgotten love was lifted, and the portrait, now a testament to the redemptive power of memory, ceased its nightly, sorrowful shifts. In the days that followed the ceremony, Ashwood Manor seemed to breathe anew. The once somber halls were filled with quiet joy as family and friends gathered to celebrate the newfound peace that had settled over the estate. The portrait, now frozen in a serene and knowing smile, became a cherished heirloom, a living reminder that even the deepest wounds can heal when met with courage, understanding, and the power of shared memory. Isabella, forever changed by her journey into the heart of sorrow and redemption, dedicated herself to preserving the legacy of Eleanor and Lucian. She established a small archive within the manor, where the letters, journals, and relics of that fateful time were carefully stored for future generations. In time, the story of the portrait that changed its expression at night spread beyond the walls of Ashwood Manor, touching the hearts of those who believed in the transcendent power of art and memory. Years later, when the whispers of the past had softened into gentle legends, the portrait remained as a silent witness to the passage of time. Visitors from distant lands came to Ashwood Manor to see the painting that had once wept in the dark and now shone with a quiet, eternal smile. They marveled at how art could capture not just the physical likeness of a soul, but its deepest, most enduring emotions. For Isabella, the journey had been both a personal odyssey and a lesson in the power of remembrance. In the subtle play of light and shadow that danced across the portrait's face, she saw the enduring truth that every human heart is capable of both profound sorrow and boundless joy, and that with time and compassion, even the most troubled spirit can be set free. Thus, the legend of the portrait that changed its expression at night lived on, a timeless reminder that the art of healing often begins with a single, brave step into the darkness. And as the moon rose each night over Ashwood Manor, its silvery glow caressed the painting, affirming that beauty and redemption are found even in the most unexpected of places. In this quiet estate where history and mystery intertwined, the portrait became not just a piece of art, but a living chronicle of human emotion, a testament to the belief that every smile, every tear, and every whispered secret can light the way toward a brighter tomorrow. In the heart of Alderhaven, daily life carried on with quiet routine. The townspeople went about their business, mending fences, selling produce in the market, greeting neighbors with familiar smiles, and yet there was an unspoken acknowledgement among them. Every path, every familiar street, led inexorably toward a void. Whether it was the winding lanes of the artisan district or the sleepy sidewalks of the residential quarters, all roads converged on the enigmatic square. But when questioned, no one could say they had ever stepped foot in that place. It was as if an invisible barrier existed, one that erased the memory of any who dared cross its threshold. Young Mara, a spirited girl with inquisitive eyes and a thirst for uncovering secrets, was among those who felt the pull of the mystery. Raised on whispered stories from her grandmother, a woman whose mind was said to be as full of riddles as the town itself, Mara had always been drawn to tales of the inexplicable. "There's a square, my dear, where footsteps vanish and memories dissolve," her grandmother had murmured on quiet evenings by the hearth. "It is a place that tests the boundaries of time and mind. It is both a refuge and a prison of forgotten dreams." Mara, now a teenager, decided that she would unravel the truth behind the forgotten square. Armed with a notebook, a battered camera, and a resolve forged in the fires of youthful wonder, she began to piece together fragments of local lore. In the market, the old grocer recalled vague recollections of children who would run toward the square only to pause abruptly, their laughter dying as if the moment had been stolen away. At the tavern, weathered fishermen spoke in hushed tones of a day when they had all passed by its edge, yet not one remembered setting foot within its boundaries. Every account was steeped in ambiguity, a collective amnesia that bound the town in mystery. On a crisp autumn morning, when the mist hung low over Alderhaven and the air was filled with the scent of fallen leaves, Mara set out to investigate, following an old map passed down through generations, its edges frayed, its lines drawn with trembling care. She made her way toward the square. The path was familiar. Winding cobblestones led from the town's busy center through narrow alleys and quiet lanes. But as she approached the supposed location of the square, she felt an odd sensation, as if the very ground whispered secrets in a language only half remembered. Reaching what appeared to be the threshold of the square, Mara slowed her steps. The air here was different. A subtle hush replaced the usual murmur of conversation and footsteps. A gentle breeze stirred the loose papers on a nearby bench, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she saw shimmering motes of light dancing in the air. With cautious steps, she stepped forward. Yet the moment her foot crossed an invisible line, an inexplicable emptiness seemed to wash over her. It was not fear, but a profound sense of loss, a sudden erasure, as though a chapter of her day was being wiped from memory. Mara paused, heart pounding, and glanced down at her shoes. Tiny droplets of dew clung to the worn leather, each one glinting in the muted light. But she could not recall the sensation of stepping on wet cobblestones. Had she truly walked this far? A deep, nagging doubt crept into her mind. Was the square not a physical place at all, but a liminal threshold between what was remembered and what was meant to be forgotten? She retraced her steps, each footfall heavy with the realization that even her own journey was dissolving into uncertainty. When she reached the familiar bustle of the market again, a shiver ran down her spine. The square, though visible on maps and known by lore, remained an enigma, a place that existed as much in myth as in the tangible world. Determined to uncover more clues, Mara began to interview the town's elders and scribes, collecting every tale and half-remembered fragment of lore. Old Tobias, the town historian, recounted an event from his youth when he and his friends had dared to race toward the square. "We laughed and ran as fast as our legs could carry us," he said, his voice trembling with a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow. But as we reached the edge, our laughter faded and a strange silence fell over us. We never stepped inside. The moment was lost, as if time itself had swallowed our joy. Other accounts spoke of peculiar visions. A woman in a flowing dress seen drifting at the periphery of the square, her face aglow with a bittersweet light. Some claimed that the square was a repository of lost dreams, a place where hopes and memories were deposited and then erased, leaving behind only the echo of what might have been. One local poet, whose verses were filled with surreal imagery, wrote of footprints that fade like tears on the sands of forgotten time, capturing the haunting beauty and sorrow that permeated the square's legend. Mara's notebook filled with these stories, each one interwoven with mystery and melancholy. She learned that the square was once a vibrant center of the town, a place where celebrations were held and communities gathered beneath open skies. But something had changed long ago, a subtle shift that began to erase the memories of those who ventured within its bounds. The legend spoke of an ancient curse, or perhaps a blessing too heavy for mortal hearts, a force that demanded that all who entered relinquish their recollection of its beauty, so that the square might remain a sanctuary of secret, unremembered wonders. As summer melted into the cool embrace of early autumn, a festival was announced in Alderhaven, a celebration of renewal, remembrance, and the ties that bound the community. This festival, however, was tinged with a note of solemnity, for it always took place on the anniversary of the day the square first lost its memory. According to tradition, the townspeople would gather at the edge of the square at dusk, lighting lanterns and offering silent prayers to the forces that governed its mystique. Mara, now more determined than ever to unlock the mystery, resolved to attend the festival. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky with hues of amber and violet, she joined the throng of townsfolk who congregated around the square's invisible boundary. Lanterns flickered like fireflies, and a quiet chorus of voices rose in unison, a hymn to both remembrance and oblivion. At the stroke of twilight, an ethereal glow began to emanate from the center of the square, a soft, pulsating light that seemed to beckon from another world. The townspeople fell silent, their eyes wide with awe and trepidation. In that moment, Mara felt a stirring deep within her, a call to step forward into the unknown. With trembling resolve, she walked toward the glow, her steps measured and her heart a blend of fear and wonder. As she entered the square, the world around her transformed. The air shimmered with a quiet luminescence, and for an instant, the boundaries between past and present blurred. In that transient moment, memories not her own, whispers of forgotten laughter, fragments of long-lost conversations, echoes of celebrations past, swirled around her like delicate wisps of fog. Yet as quickly as the vision came, it receded, leaving Mara standing in a silence so profound that the beating of her heart was the only sound. When she stepped back out, a strange emptiness replaced the vivid impressions of the square. The recollections faded like mist in the morning sun, leaving her with a deep ache of loss and a yearning for understanding. It was as if the square had taken a piece of her soul, a secret that she could no longer name, but that would forever remain imprinted upon her. In the days that followed the festival, Alderhaven was abuzz with quiet reflection and subdued conversations. People spoke in hushed tones about their experiences at the square, each tale a blend of wonder and mourning. For some, the experience was liberating, a release from the burdens of painful memories. For others, it was a loss too deep to bear, an erasure of moments that defined who they were. Mara retreated to her attic room, where moonlight filtered through a small window, casting silvery patterns on her worn desk. There, she pored over her notebook, trying to piece together the fractured memories and the lore that spoke of a time when the square was a living, breathing testament to community and joy. In her research, she discovered old manuscripts and faded photographs that hinted at the square's former splendor, a place where festivals had been grand, where lovers had carved their initials into ancient stone, and where children had danced under the open sky. One particular passage from an old journal caught her eye. It described a ritual meant to restore the forgotten steps, a ceremony in which the townspeople would collectively remember the joys and sorrows of their past in the very space that had stolen their memories. The text, written in delicate cursive and smudged with the passage of time, spoke of a moment when the square could be reclaimed, not by forcing memories, but by allowing them to surface naturally through shared experience. Inspired by this discovery, Mara resolved to organize a new gathering, one that would invite the people of Alderhaven to remember together. She hoped that by uniting their recollections, they might mend the rift between the tangible present and the elusive past of the square. On a crisp winter evening, when the frost painted the town in delicate lace and the air was crisp with anticipation, Mara sent word throughout Alderhaven. In the town square, an expanse visible to all but remembered by none, a grand assembly was planned. Families, elders, and youths alike gathered at the edge of the square, each carrying tokens of memory, old photographs, handwritten letters, and cherished trinkets that held the essence of days gone by. Under a sky heavy with stars and the soft glow of a harvest moon, the townsfolk encircled the square. Mara, standing at the forefront, explained the purpose of their gathering in a voice both tender and determined. "This square," she began, "is not merely a void that steals our memories. It is a canvas upon which we have painted the story of our lives, a story that is not lost, but waiting to be remembered. Tonight, let us reclaim our footsteps and honor the laughter, the tears, and the love that has made us who we are." As the crowd murmured in agreement, an ancient melody, half remembered and hauntingly familiar, began to weave through the air. It was as if the square itself had awakened, resonating with the collective heartbeat of Alderhaven. One by one, people stepped forward, sharing stories of moments that had shaped their lives. The gentle kindness of a neighbor, the bittersweet farewell to a dear friend, the exuberant joy of a summer festival. Their voices intertwined, rising in a chorus of remembrance that transcended individual loss. For a few ephemeral hours, the square was no longer a place of forgotten steps, but a living repository of memory, a sanctuary where every whispered word, every shared laugh, and every tear shed in silent tribute became part of a vibrant tapestry. And as the night deepened, a subtle transformation took place. The invisible barrier that had once kept memories at bay seemed to dissolve, replaced by an overwhelming sense of unity and renewal. When the gathering finally dispersed, each person left with something new, a rekindled connection to their past and a hope that the square, though mysterious and mercurial, would now be remembered as a cherished crossroads of their collective history. In the weeks and months that followed the gathering, Alderhaven itself began to change. The town square, once shrouded in the inexplicable haze of forgetfulness, gradually assumed a tangible presence. New conversations emerged about the nature of memory, community, and the spaces that bind them together. Children playing near the square's edge left small chalk drawings and hopeful inscriptions on walls that had seen generations pass by, as if each mark was a small reclaiming of what had once been lost. Mara became known as the keeper of forgotten steps, a guardian of memories and a mediator between the visible and the unseen. Her tireless efforts in recording stories, preserving relics of the past, and guiding the community's newfound tradition of remembrance earned her a revered place in the hearts of the townspeople. Scholars and curious travelers came from distant lands to hear her recount the tale of the square that no one remembered walking through, a story of paradox and possibility that resonated far beyond the borders of Alderhaven. In time, the square evolved into a living museum of collective memory. Each anniversary of the Great Gathering was celebrated with a festival of stories, where the town's history was not only remembered, but also celebrated with art, music, and dance. The mysterious nature of the square was never fully unraveled. Its origins and purpose remained as elusive as ever. But its new legacy was clear. It had become a symbol of the enduring power of shared experience, a place where the past was honored without the weight of regret, and where every forgotten step was a promise of rediscovery. Decades later, when the soft patter of rain on cobblestone echoed through the twilight of Alderhaven, the town square stood as a quiet testament to the beauty of collective memory. Old photographs, faded but cherished, adorned the walls surrounding the square, and the laughter of children mingled with the gentle hum of elders recounting long-ago tales. Though the mystery of the square, that place where no one remembered walking through, remained unsolved, it had become a beacon of hope and unity in a world where time, memory, and experience wove together in delicate, unpredictable patterns. Mara's legacy endured in the hearts of all who had gathered there. In every whispered recollection and every shared smile, the square whispered its own timeless secret, that memories, no matter how elusive or fleeting, are the threads that bind us to our past and to each other. And so the town square that once was shrouded in forgotten steps became a sanctuary of remembrance, a place where the echoes of every life, every journey, and every lost moment could be reclaimed, celebrated, and transformed into a future filled with hope. Thus the story of Alderhaven's forgotten square lives on as an enduring reminder that even when the path seems erased by the winds of oblivion, the footprints of our hearts remain indelibly etched in the tapestry of time. In this quiet corner of the world, where every cobblestone and every whispered legend tells a story, the town square stands as a testament to the power of remembrance, a magical space where forgotten steps give way to a legacy of unity, renewal, and the eternal dance between memory and mystery. In the valley of Eodoria, nestled between towering, mist-shrouded mountains and ancient forests, where every tree seemed to hold a secret, life had long been governed by the cycle of seasons. Yet every so often, the winds would carry a different tale, one of distant thunder and unceasing rain. Villagers spoke of ominous signs, dark clouds that lingered far longer than any natural storm, lightning that danced with a wild, otherworldly energy, and a relentless howl that seemed to mourn lost eras. Elder Marwin, a keeper of forgotten lore, recounted that the endless tempest was not a natural occurrence, but an ancient force awakened by human folly and cosmic imbalance. He told of a time when the earth and sky were one, when the boundaries between mortal realms and the realm of elemental spirits were porous. According to his stories, there existed a hidden covenant with nature, a promise to honor the delicate balance of life. Yet as greed and discord crept into the hearts of men, that covenant began to fray, summoning a storm that would never cease until the scales were righted. On a day that began like any other, the people of Eodoria noticed subtle changes in the atmosphere. The air grew heavy, laden with a charged stillness that hinted at impending doom. Farmers halted their work as the sky darkened unnaturally, and a deep, resonant rumble began to echo across the valley. Soon the heavens opened in a fury of rain and wind, and with a deafening roar, the endless tempest was born. Unlike ordinary storms that eventually faded into the clear blue, this tempest seemed to possess a will of its own. Rain fell in sheets that obscured the sun, and the wind tore through the valleys with an almost sentient anger. It was as if the storm were an embodiment of nature's wrath, a force determined to reclaim the balance that had been lost. For days and nights, the tempest raged without respite, its relentless assault reshaping the landscape and instilling fear in even the bravest hearts. At the heart of Eodoria lay the town of Alaris, a once vibrant community renowned for its lush orchards and vibrant festivals. As the storm took hold, Alaris found itself transformed into a somber landscape of perpetual rain. Streets that had once echoed with laughter now lay deserted and waterlogged. Once bustling markets stood silent under layers of glistening puddles. The people of Ilaris struggled to adapt, their lives suspended in a state of inescapable melancholy as the storm waged on. Among the town's inhabitants was a young woman named Leora, whose resilience and gentle spirit shone like a beacon amid the gloom. Having lost her family in previous tempests, Leora had learned to navigate the sorrow and uncertainty of relentless weather. Yet even she was unprepared for a storm that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. As the days turned to weeks, and the weeks into an eternity of rain, the people began to wonder if there was any hope of respite, or if the endless tempest was a harbinger of a far greater destiny. In the midst of despair, ancient prophecies resurfaced, cryptic verses that foretold the coming of one whose heart was intertwined with the elements. Leora began to experience vivid dreams of celestial light and deep echoing thunder, visions that hinted at a purpose beyond mere survival. The dreams spoke of an ancient covenant between mankind and the primordial forces of the world, and of a key to unlocking the storm's secret. Local legend held that the chosen one would bear a mark, a mysterious sigil, faintly glowing upon the skin during the peak of the tempest. One stormy night, as Leora sought shelter beneath the crumbling arches of an old stone bridge, she noticed a soft luminescence tracing along her wrist. In that moment, she realized that the legends were true. Fate had selected her to confront the storm and to restore the broken covenant between humankind and nature. Word of the mark spread through Ilaris like wildfire, stirring hope and trepidation in equal measure. Though many doubted the existence of such destiny, a small group of devoted souls gathered around Leora, pledging their support on a quest to uncover the origins of the endless tempest and to find a way to end its ceaseless reign. Determined to find answers, Leora and her newfound companions embarked on a perilous journey beyond the familiar borders of Ilaris. Their path led them through ancient woodlands, across raging rivers, and up treacherous mountain passes where the storm's fury was felt even more acutely. Along the way, they encountered remnants of a lost era, forgotten temples dedicated to elemental deities, inscriptions etched into crumbling stone that hinted at a time when man and nature lived in harmonious accord. In one such ruin, hidden deep within a cavern of glistening quartz, they discovered a mural depicting the ancient covenant. It told the story of a celestial guardian who had bestowed upon humanity the gift of balance, a pact sealed with sacrifice and bound by mutual respect. The mural warned that should the covenant be broken, nature would awaken in righteous fury, unleashing a storm that would last until the imbalance was rectified. Armed with this knowledge, Leora and her companions pressed onward, their resolve bolstered by the possibility of mending the rift that had provoked the tempest. As they journeyed further into the heart of the storm, the elements tested their strength and spirit. Torrential rains obscured their path. Lightning illuminated hidden dangers, and gusts of wind threatened to scatter their hopes like so many leaves in a gale. Yet with each trial, the group grew closer and stronger, united by a common purpose that transcended fear and despair. After what felt like an eternity of battling nature's fury, Leora and her band reached the summit of Mount Seraphim, a place of legend said to be the meeting ground of the earthly and the divine. Here, at the very edge of the world, the storm was at its most potent. The winds howled in a ceaseless chorus, and the rain fell like liquid silver under the watchful eyes of a full, radiant moon that defied the darkness below. It was atop this mountain that the chosen mark began to glow with an ethereal light, pulsing in synchrony with the tempest's heartbeat. Before them lay an ancient altar carved from stone and adorned with symbols of the elements: water, wind, fire, and earth. The altar, as inscribed in the old tales, was the key to restoring the covenant. It was here that Leora was to perform the sacred ritual that would call upon the elemental guardians and bring balance to the world. In a moment of profound clarity, Leora felt the presence of the celestial guardian, a benevolent spirit whose essence resonated in the very wind and rain. The guardian's voice, soft yet commanding, echoed within her mind, urging her to embrace the storm and to let its power become a force for renewal rather than destruction. With unwavering determination, Leora began the ritual, her voice rising in a prayer that mingled with the howling wind and the patter of unending rain. As she recited the ancient incantations, luminous energy swirled around the altar. The elemental symbols blazed with renewed brilliance, and for a brief transcendent moment, the storm itself seemed to pause, its furious roar replaced by a deep, resonant hum that spoke of reconciliation and rebirth. The ritual's culmination brought forth a miracle. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the torrential rains began to ease, and the howling winds softened into a gentle murmur. The storm that had once seemed eternal was gradually surrendering its relentless power. Across the vast expanse of Eodoria, dark clouds parted to reveal glimpses of a pale, forgiving sky. The people of Alaris, who had long resigned themselves to a life beneath unyielding gloom, stepped out into a dawn that promised hope and renewal. Yet the transformation was not without its sacrifices. Leora, having poured her heart and soul into the ritual, found herself forever changed. The mark of the chosen burned with a lasting glow, a reminder of the price paid to restore balance. Though the tempest had ceased its relentless fury, its memory was etched into the fabric of the land. The covenant had been mended, but nature's forces remained powerful and unpredictable. A gentle reminder of the delicate balance between creation and chaos. In the days that followed, the people of Eodoria set about rebuilding their lives. The endless rain had left behind a land washed anew, fertile and vibrant in the aftermath of the storm. Crops grew with unprecedented vigor, and the once dreary town of Alaris blossomed into a community united by resilience and hope. Statues were erected in honor of the celestial guardian and the brave souls who had faced the endless tempest, ensuring that the lessons learned would be remembered for generations to come. Years turned into decades, and the tale of the storm that never ended once it began grew into a cherished legend, a story told by firelight and on moonlit nights. Bards composed epic ballads recounting the trials of Leora and her companions, and scholars studied the ancient texts that spoke of the covenant between humanity and nature. The legacy of the endless tempest was not one of despair, but of transformation, a reminder that even the most unyielding forces of nature could be harnessed for renewal if met with courage, wisdom, and compassion. Leora, though now a venerable elder, continued to serve as a guardian of the balance she had fought so fiercely to restore. She established a sanctuary at the base of Mount Seraphim, where people from far and wide could come to learn about the delicate interplay of the elements, the importance of honoring nature, and the enduring power of hope. In quiet meditation, surrounded by the soft murmur of streams and the rustle of ancient trees, she would often recall the nights of unending rain and the fierce, untamed winds, a reminder of the storm that had once raged and the calm that had followed. The people of Eodoria learned that the storm was not an enemy to be vanquished, but a force of nature to be understood, a symbol of the struggles and the triumphs that marked the passage of time. They celebrated the storm with annual festivals, where lanterns were released into the sky and songs were sung to honor both the fury of the tempest and the quiet promise of renewal. In every raindrop that shimmered in the sunlight, in every gust of wind that whispered through the valley, there lingered the memory of the day when balance was restored and the storm finally found its end. As the years melded into history, the legend of the endless tempest remained etched in the collective memory of Eodoria, a timeless parable of nature's might and humanity's enduring capacity for change. In the gentle embrace of each new dawn, the people remembered that even the most ceaseless storm could be quelled by the unyielding spirit of those who dared to dream of a better world. Leora's sanctuary became a beacon of wisdom, a place where the past and present converged in quiet reflection and hopeful anticipation. The mark of the chosen, though faded with time, served as a reminder that every soul carries within it the power to bring about change, to restore harmony to a world that is often as unpredictable as the winds themselves. Thus, in the tranquil aftermath of a storm that once seemed eternal, the land of Eodoria learned to cherish both the fury and the beauty of nature. The endless tempest was remembered not as a harbinger of unending despair, but as a catalyst for rebirth, a powerful reminder that every ending paves the way for a new beginning, and that in the heart of even the wildest storm lies the promise of a radiant, unyielding dawn. And so, the story endures, a testament to the indomitable human spirit and the ever-changing, ever-renewing power of nature. The tempest may have once raged without end, but in its wake, it left behind a legacy of hope, resilience, and the eternal promise that every storm, no matter how fierce, eventually gives way to light. Long before the modern world claimed dominion over the land, a small kingdom lay cradled between rolling hills and deep, enchanted forests. It was here in the twilight hours of a fabled era that the harp first came into being. Legend told of a reclusive artisan named Eerie who lived on the edge of a mystical glen. Eerie was not merely a craftsman, he was a soul attuned to the whispers of the natural world. One fateful night, as a rare lunar eclipse bathed the heavens in an ethereal glow, he dreamt of an otherworldly melody, a tune so pure that it echoed the very heartbeat of the cosmos. Upon waking, Eerie was compelled by a force beyond mortal understanding. He gathered silver strands from the night's dewdrops, melted the purest crystal under the moon's caress, and fashioned a harp unlike any other. When he strummed its strings beneath the silver light, a music of unimaginable beauty filled the air, a sound that seemed to merge grief with joy, past with future, and hope with despair. But as dawn neared, the melody faded into silence, leaving behind only the lingering memory of a love lost to time. Thus was born the moonlit harp, destined to play only when the moon reclaimed its dominion over the night sky. For many years, the moonlit harp remained concealed in a secret sanctuary deep within the forest. Protected by ancient enchantments and guarded by nature's most devoted spirits, the sanctuary was known only to a few. Its entrance was marked by a crescent-shaped arch of intertwined vines and glowing moss, a natural portal that appeared only when the moon reached its zenith. Those who stumbled upon it found themselves in a clearing where silver light danced on dewdrops, and the air was heavy with the scent of night-blooming flowers. Among these wanderers was a young minstrel named Aveline, whose life had been touched by sorrow. Orphaned at an early age, Aveline had wandered from village to village, her heart a tapestry of grief and unspoken longing. Drawn by the haunting legends of the moonlit harp, she embarked on a quest in search of solace and perhaps a forgotten part of herself. It was said that only one burdened by loss could unlock the harp's true power. Armed with little more than a tattered lute and a soul eager for healing, Aveline ventured into the deep forest, guided by the silver beams of the full moon. After days of travel through whispering groves and silent glens, she finally discovered the hidden sanctuary. The sight of the crescent arch, bathed in moonlight and framed by ancient oaks, stirred a hope deep within her. With a reverent step, she crossed the threshold, unaware that her life was about to intertwine with destiny. Inside the sanctuary, the moonlit harp rested upon a pedestal of smooth stone, its surface etched with cryptic runes that glowed faintly in the dark. The instrument appeared almost to breathe with anticipation, as if aware of the approaching night and the promise of its awakening. Aveline's heart pounded in her chest as she approached the harp, each step echoing in the quiet sanctum. Here, time seemed to slow. The soft hum of the forest and the distant call of night creatures merged into a single serene chorus. Under the watchful gaze of a silvery full moon, Aveline tentatively reached out to touch the harp's strings. As her fingers brushed the cool, delicate metal, a current of energy surged through her. For a long, suspended moment, the world held its breath. Then, with a gentle vibration, the harp began to sing. Its sound was at once melancholic and uplifting, a lament for what had been lost, and a hymn of hope for what was yet to come. The melody filled the sanctuary, each note resonating with the sorrow and joy of centuries past. The song carried memories of ancient love, of battles fought and dreams shattered, and yet it also whispered of healing and renewal. As Aveline listened, tears mingled with the silver light, each drop a testament to the bittersweet beauty of her own story. In that luminous moment, she understood that the harp was not merely an instrument, it was a bridge between the realms of mortal sorrow and celestial grace. But such beauty was not without its price. The awakening of the moonlit harp stirred forces both benevolent and malevolent. Unbeknownst to Aveline, dark entities, remnants of an ancient curse, had long coveted the harp's magic. These shadows, born of forgotten regrets and bitterness, were drawn to its luminous song. As the melody echoed through the night, the sanctum's serene atmosphere began to shiver with a palpable tension. One fateful evening, as Aveline sat by the harp beneath a shimmering canopy of stars, a chill wind swept through the sanctuary. Dark figures emerged at the periphery, their eyes glowing with envious malice. They were the wraiths of despair, beings that fed on sorrow and sought to extinguish the light of hope. Their forms, indistinct yet unmistakably sinister, crept closer, intent on capturing the source of the harp's power for their own twisted purposes. Aveline, though overcome by grief in her past, had discovered a newfound strength in the wake of the harp's music. With the sound of its strings guiding her, she stood her ground. Drawing upon the reservoir of courage that had been nurtured by the harp's healing song, she began to sing along, her voice soft at first, then rising in a crescendo of defiance and longing. The combined power of the harp and Aveline's song created a barrier of pure, radiant light that repelled the encroaching shadows. The struggle that ensued was as much a battle of wills as it was a clash of magical forces. For hours, the sanctuary trembled with the collision of light and darkness. Yet in the end, the purity of the melody prevailed. The wraiths, unable to withstand the harmonious power of hope and healing, dissipated into the night, leaving behind only echoes of their sinister presence. In that triumphant moment, Aveline realized that the true strength of the harp lay not in its enchanted strings, but in the ability of its music to inspire the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of shadows. In the days that followed the nocturnal battle, word of the moonlit harp's miraculous power spread like wildfire among nearby villages and wandering souls. Pilgrims began to make their way to the hidden sanctuary, each drawn by the promise of healing and the allure of a music that transcended time. Aveline, once a solitary wanderer, found herself at the center of a community united by shared hope and the magic of the night. Under her gentle guidance, the sanctuary transformed into a haven where people could come to mend their broken hearts, share their stories, and learn to see beauty in even the most painful memories. Elders recounted ancient lore, children danced beneath the moonlight, and lovers found solace in the soft strains of the harp's song. Every full moon, as the silver orb rose high in the sky, the harp would awaken to play its otherworldly melody, a reminder that even in the depths of sorrow, there existed the power to heal, to forgive, and to embrace the future with renewed hope. Aveline herself began to compose new songs, inspired by the harp's timeless music. Her compositions, interwoven with notes of melancholy and bursts of elation, captured the essence of human existence, a tapestry of love, loss, and the enduring quest for redemption. With each performance, she discovered that the magic of the harp was not confined to the sanctuary alone. It reached out to every soul willing to listen, offering them a chance to rewrite their own stories in the language of moonlight. As seasons turned and years passed, the legend of the moonlit harp took root in the collective memory of the land. Bards and poets, inspired by Aveline's tale, composed ballads and epic verses that celebrated the transformative power of the night's melody. In grand courts and humble taverns alike, the story was recounted, a story of a harp that played only under moonlight, a song that healed wounds too deep for mere time to mend, and a young woman whose courage lit the way through darkness. The sanctuary itself became a place of pilgrimage, a living museum of history and hope. Ancient scrolls and intricate carvings documented the many who had been touched by the harp's magic, each mark a testament to lives forever changed by its music. Over time, the sanctuary expanded as new generations added their own chapters to the tale. Festivals were held beneath the silver glow of the full moon, where people danced, sang, and celebrated the unity of human spirit in celestial wonder. Scholars attempted to unravel the mysteries of the harp's creation, poring over dusty manuscripts and decoding the runes etched into the stone. They debated whether its power was the result of alchemical transmutation or the divine intervention of moon goddesses long forgotten. Yet despite their efforts, the true origin of the moonlit harp remained an enigma, a reminder that some mysteries are meant to be felt rather than fully understood. Not all was calm beneath the watchful gaze of the moon. As the cycle of the heavens continued, a time came when the sanctuary was once again threatened, not by external shadows, but by internal strife. A faction of pilgrims, their hearts hardened by grief and blinded by ambition, sought to claim the harp's magic for themselves. They believed that by harnessing its power, they could alter fate and control the very fabric of destiny. On the night of a new moon, when the sky was cloaked in darkness and the harp's song lay dormant, these dissenters made their move. They attempted to seize the harp, to force it into a role of power and domination rather than healing and unity. The sanctuary was plunged into chaos as the balance of hope and despair teetered on the edge of collapse. Yet even in that dark hour, the spirit of the harp endured. Aveline, now a revered guardian of the sanctuary, rallied those who believed in the true meaning of the moonlit harp. In a stirring confrontation beneath a starless sky, she and her allies invoked the ancient magic of the sanctuary. Their voices rose in a unified chant, a prayer to the moon and the cosmic forces that had once breathed life into the harp. As their song swelled, the harp began to stir, faint notes emerging from its silent form. In that moment, the power of genuine hope eclipsed the selfish desires of the dissenters. The would-be usurpers found themselves overwhelmed by a force far greater than ambition, a force born of love, compassion, and the unyielding belief in the healing power of the night. The dissenters, humbled and transformed by the experience, retreated into the shadows of their own making. The balance was restored, and the sanctuary once again became a symbol of unity, a place where the magic of the harp could flourish untainted by greed or malice. In the years that followed, the sanctuary and the moonlit harp became beacons of hope across the land. Aveline's legacy lived on in the countless lives she had touched and the songs she had inspired. The harp, ever faithful to its nature, continued to play only under the tender embrace of moonlight, each note a promise that even in the darkest times, beauty and healing would find a way. New generations came to the sanctuary with hearts full of wonder and souls eager to learn the ancient language of light and shadow. They carried with them the lessons of the past, using the music of the harp to forge a future where compassion reigned and every sorrow was met with the possibility of renewal. Travelers from distant lands, driven by dreams of transformation, journeyed to witness the miracle of the moonlit harp, and in doing so, helped spread its message far and wide. Aveline, though long departed from the mortal realm, was remembered in every gentle breeze that rustled the leaves, in every ripple upon the silvered surface of the sanctuary's pool, and in every note that the harp released under the watchful eye of the moon. Her story, intertwined with that of the enchanted instrument, became a timeless reminder that even the most fragile heart could mend under the gentle caress of moonlight. As twilight descended on a world transformed by hope and healing, the moonlit harp rested in its sanctuary, waiting for the next full moon to awaken its ancient song. In that quiet, sacred space, the boundaries between past and present, sorrow and joy, light and dark, dissolved into a harmonious lullaby, a melody that would forever echo through the ages. The story of the harp that only played under moonlight endures as an epic testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It is a tale of loss and redemption, of battles fought both within and without, and of the eternal promise that even in the deepest night, the light of hope will rise again. And so, under the silent gaze of 1,000 stars and the benevolent glow of the moon, the legacy of the moonlit harp lives on, a beacon for all who dare to dream, to heal, and to find beauty in the magic that lies just beyond the edge of darkness. Ibn Hollow's legend began long before its citizens could recall. Elders spoke of an ancient curse that had fallen over the town centuries ago, a curse forged during a time of strife and sorrow. According to whispered lore, a grieving sorcerer, cast out by a heartless society, had cursed the town as he left, vowing that the darkness of his despair would one day rise and reclaim its lost identity. And so, over generations, the shadows began to stir. At first, the phenomenon was subtle. Residents noticed that their shadows would linger a moment longer than the rest of them, as if hesitant to merge with their masters. At dusk, when the last sliver of sunlight faded, the silhouettes seemed to twitch at the edges, dancing in patterns that defied natural order. It was during these twilight hours that some claimed the shadows spoke in hushed voices, a language of forgotten dreams and lost time. The superstitious residents locked their doors and whispered prayers to ward off the enigmatic presence. Yet no remedy could dispel the persistent murmur of living darkness. The shadows in Ebon Hollow were peculiar in their nature. They were not malevolent beings outright, but they were capricious, mischievous, and often sorrowful. They roamed freely through the narrow streets at night, sometimes mimicking their owners with eerie precision, and at other times detaching themselves to explore hidden corners of the town. Some shadows were playful, twirling and leaping as if inviting onlookers to join a spectral ballet. Others were somber, trailing behind like mournful guardians, their elongated forms hinting at secrets long buried. One of the town's oldest residents, old Marta, claimed that the shadows were the physical manifestations of every suppressed memory and unspoken longing. They carry the weight of our regrets, she would say, her voice trembling with both fear and reverence. In the dark, they seek release, an echo of the souls we hide within ourselves. Her words, though cryptic, resonated deeply with those who had witnessed the uncanny behaviors of their own shadow. Among the town's inhabitants was a curious child named Emery, whose wide eyes and boundless imagination led him to question everything around him. Unlike many who shrank from the dark, Emery was enchanted by it. He spent endless evenings watching as his shadow stretched and contorted, its form flickering like a living tapestry on the walls of his modest home. One crisp autumn night, Emery followed his shadow as it slipped silently from the back door, venturing into the mist-laden streets. In the cool darkness, Emery discovered that his shadow could lead him to places no one else dared to explore. It guided him to the old town square, where the ancient stone fountain lay forgotten. There, amid the pooling water and the rustle of fallen leaves, the shadows gathered in a silent congregation. Emery watched in awe as the silhouettes moved of their own accord, circling the fountain as if performing an otherworldly ritual. In that moment, the child understood that the shadows were not merely reflections of their owners. They were an independent force, a silent collective with a life of its own. Word of Ebon Hollow's strange phenomenon eventually reached the ears of Lucian Blackwood, a renowned scholar of the arcane. Drawn by both academic curiosity and a personal fascination with the interplay of light and dark, Lucian arrived in the town to uncover its mysteries. With a collection of ancient tomes and instruments designed to capture the minutest flicker of energy, he set up a modest laboratory in a creaking mansion on the town's outskirts. Lucian's investigations revealed peculiar energy signatures emanating from the shadows, patterns that defied conventional physics. He theorized that the shadows were remnants of an ancient magic, a form of energy born from the collective sorrows and suppressed desires of Ebon Hollow's people. By day, the town existed as any other, governed by the mundane rhythms of daily life. But at night, when the weight of history pressed upon the present, the suppressed emotions and memories manifested as living darkness. Night after night, Lucian recorded the movements and interactions of the shadows. He observed that they communicated through subtle shifts in shape and intensity, forming patterns that hinted at messages from the past. One evening, while deciphering a particularly complex sequence near the old clock tower, Lucian was startled to see a shadow break away from its owner. It floated freely, pausing in midair before forming a delicate outline of a hand reaching upward. Lucian's instruments hummed with energy as he captured this anomaly, convinced that it was a deliberate message, a silent plea for recognition and release. As winter cloaked Ebon Hollow in a blanket of frost and silence, the interplay between light and shadow grew ever more intense. The town seemed to pulsate with an almost tangible anticipation, as if every resident, knowingly or not, was waiting for an inevitable reckoning. In hushed gatherings at the local inn, townsfolk exchanged anxious theories. Some believed that the shadows were harbingers of a great change, while others whispered of an impending catastrophe. Yet amidst the uncertainty, one idea began to take hold. The shadows yearned for understanding and acceptance. A council was convened, a meeting of the town's elders, scholars, and even a few brave young souls. At the center of the gathering sat Emery, now a thoughtful preteen whose early encounters with his shadow had transformed him. With a steady voice that belied his age, Emery suggested that perhaps the shadows were not enemies, but misunderstood reflections of the human condition. They mirror our hidden selves, he said. They remind us that every darkness within us deserves a moment of acknowledgement, a chance to be seen. The council debated long into the night, their voices echoing in the ancient stone hall. In the end, they resolved to embrace the phenomenon rather than fear it. With Lucian Blackwood's guidance, they devised a plan to interact directly with the shadows, to learn from them, and in doing so, to heal the wounds of the past. On the eve of the winter solstice, a night traditionally celebrated as a time of renewal and reflection, the entire town gathered in the central square. The air was crisp and electric, filled with a quiet determination. Lanterns cast soft, golden glows against the snowy backdrop, and the full moon watched from above as an ancient silent witness. At the stroke of midnight, a hush fell over the crowd. Lucian stepped forward, holding aloft a silver mirror etched with cryptic symbols, a relic believed to bridge the gap between the tangible and the ethereal. Tonight, he proclaimed, we seek to converse with the shadows, not as enemies, but as a part of ourselves. As his words drifted into the frosty air, the assembled citizens braced themselves. Slowly, one by one, the shadows began to detach from their owners and coalesce before the crowd, forming a swirling mosaic of darkness. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. The mirror in Lucian's hand caught the moonlight and refracted it in dazzling patterns, casting dancing shapes upon the gathered shadows. Then, as if in response to the silent invitation, the shadows began to speak, not in words but in gentle, rhythmic pulses of light and dark. They swirled around the townspeople, weaving delicate patterns that hinted at forgotten memories, lost loves, and unspoken regrets. An elderly woman stepped forward, her eyes glistening with tears. "I see my past here," she murmured, pointing to a particular tendril of shadow that seemed to carry the faint outline of a long-lost friend. Others followed, each receiving a silent acknowledgement of their inner truths. Emery, his face alight with wonder, watched as his own shadow morphed into a figure of laughter and play, reclaiming the innocence of his childhood. The moment was transformative. In that magical twilight, the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual dissolved. The shadows, far from being malevolent forces, became mirrors reflecting the town's collective soul. Every sorrow was met with compassion, every regret with gentle understanding. The townsfolk learned to see their darkness as a part of themselves, one that, when acknowledged, could lead to healing and renewal. In the days that followed that fateful winter solstice, Ebon Hollow underwent a profound transformation. The meeting had left an indelible mark on its people. The shadows, once a source of dread, were now regarded as a vital part of the town's identity. Lucian documented every detail of that miraculous night, his writings now serving as a guide for future generations on how to embrace the entirety of one's being, the light and the dark. The town's artists and musicians were particularly inspired. Painters captured the ethereal beauty of the dancing shadows in vivid portraits that adorned the walls of local galleries, while poets and songwriters composed ballads celebrating the unity of spirit and darkness. A festival was established in honor of the solstice, a yearly celebration where the citizens of Ebon Hollow would come together to share stories, sing songs of hope, and remember that every shadow held a fragment of their soul. Even as seasons changed and the frosty grip of winter gave way to the gentle warmth of spring, the lessons of that night endured. Neighbors began to support one another more openly, sharing both joys and sorrows with a newfound empathy. In quiet moments, when dusk settled over the town, people would pause to watch as their shadows stretched out behind them, reminders of the night when the darkness came alive and taught them the true nature of their hearts. Years later, as Emery, now a wise and compassionate adult, wandered the familiar streets of Ebon Hollow, he recalled that extraordinary night with reverence. The town had become a living tapestry of intertwined destinies, each citizen understanding that their shadows were not to be feared, but embraced. The curse that had once loomed over Ebon Hollow had been transformed into a blessing, a constant reminder that within every person exists a duality of light and dark, joy and sorrow, hope and regret. The legend of the living shadows spread beyond the valley, drawing visitors from faraway lands who sought to witness the phenomenon and learn its secrets. Scholars, mystics, and travelers all arrived, each leaving with a deeper understanding of the intricate dance between the seen and the unseen. And though Ebon Hollow remained a small town by many measures, its legacy became one of profound wisdom, that to truly live, one must accept every part of oneself, even the shadows that flicker at the edge of vision. In the soft glow of twilight, when the world seemed to hold its breath and the first stars emerged, one could almost hear the whispers of the shadows, a gentle, persistent reminder that even in the darkest hours, there is beauty, understanding, and the promise of a new beginning. Thus, the tale of a town where shadows come to life was etched into the annals of time, a story of transformation, redemption, and the eternal interplay of light and dark, a testament to the enduring human spirit that finds hope even in its own reflection. High above the valley, where jagged peaks cut through the early morning mists, Legends of the luminous cavern had been passed down through generations. Local elders recounted how, in days long past, the mountain was believed to be the resting place of celestial secrets. Some said that the cave was created when a fallen star crashed into the earth, its cosmic energy infusing the stone with a glow that bridged the gap between worlds. Others believed that it was a sacred gateway, a threshold to a realm of light and wonder that existed parallel to our own. Among the curious was a young explorer named Eric, whose heart burned with a yearning to uncover the mysteries hidden in the mountain's depths. Eric had grown up on the tales of old, and the legends of the luminous cavern stirred his imagination. Determined to witness this marvel firsthand, he gathered his maps and tools, and with a blend of trepidation and excitement, set off on a journey that would change his life. Arik's journey led him through a rugged landscape of rocky trails, dense forests, and cascading streams. As he ascended the winding paths, the air grew crisp, and the natural beauty of the mountains revealed itself in bursts of vibrant wildflowers and ancient pines. Yet even amid the serene splendor, an undercurrent of mystery pulsed through the land, a sense that every step brought him closer to an encounter with the unknown. After days of arduous travel, Arik reached the outskirts of a secluded glen where nature and time seemed to blend into one. There, partially hidden by a thicket of climbing vines and moss-laden stones, he discovered the entrance to the luminous cavern. The opening was narrow, almost as if it were a secret kept by the earth itself, beckoning him to step inside. With a deep breath to steady his resolve, Eric crossed the threshold, leaving the familiar light of day behind. The air inside the cave was cool and still, carrying the faint scent of earth and ancient minerals. At first, Arik's only guide was the beam of his lantern, its weak light casting trembling shadows against the rough-hewn walls. But as he ventured deeper, the darkness began to give way to a soft, ethereal glow that seemed to originate from the very stones surrounding him. The light was unlike anything he had ever seen. It shimmered in hues of silver and blue, undulating as if alive. The cavern walls were adorned with crystalline formations that refracted the radiance into countless delicate prisms. Every step revealed new wonders, mineral pools that glowed with an inner fire, ancient petroglyphs etched into the rock by unknown hands, and delicate stalactites that sparkled like the threads of a vast cosmic tapestry. Arik felt as if he had stepped into a realm where time itself was suspended, a place where the ordinary laws of nature no longer applied, and every moment was imbued with a sense of the miraculous. Guided by the mesmerizing luminescence, Eric followed a narrow passage that wound deeper into the mountain. The further he traveled, the more the glow intensified, until at last he arrived at the heart of the cavern, a vast, cathedral-like chamber that defied description. Here the ceiling soared into darkness, but the cavern floor was awash with a radiant light that seemed to pulse in sync with the rhythm of his own heartbeat. In the center of the chamber lay a crystalline pool, its surface perfectly still and reflecting the luminous glow as if it were a mirror into another realm. Surrounding the pool, intricate formations of quartz and other gemstones formed natural sculptures, their facets capturing the light in dazzling displays. It was here that Arik encountered the true wonder of the luminous cavern, a phenomenon that transcended the mere play of light on stone. As he approached the pool, the gentle ripple of the water seemed to speak in a language older than words. Arik knelt by its edge, transfixed by the sight of swirling colors that danced across the surface. In that moment, the light deepened, and a subtle warmth radiated from the pool, as though it contained the very essence of life. The beauty was overwhelming, evoking feelings of both profound serenity and a mysterious, beckoning energy. Unbeknownst to Arik, he was not alone in the luminous chamber. Hidden among the shimmering formations, a presence stirred, a guardian of the ancient light that had long watched over the cavern. Manifesting gradually from the interplay of glow and shadow, a figure emerged that was at once ethereal and commanding. Draped in robes that seemed woven from strands of light itself, the guardian possessed eyes that glowed with wisdom beyond mortal understanding. The guardian introduced herself as Leora, the keeper of the cavern's eternal flame. With a voice that resonated like the gentle murmur of 1,000 streams, she explained that the luminous cavern was a sacred repository of the Earth's memory, a convergence point where cosmic energy, ancient magic, and the spirit of nature intertwined. Leora revealed that the cavern's glow was not simply a physical phenomenon, but a manifestation of a deep, abiding connection between the realms of the material and the spiritual. She told Auric of the cavern's origin, a time when the world was young and the forces of nature still sang in harmony with the stars. It was during that primordial era that a cosmic event, a shower of celestial light, had imbued the cave with a spark of otherworldly energy. Ever since, the cavern had been a beacon of hope and renewal, its light serving as a reminder of the beauty and mystery of creation. Leora also warned Auric that the cavern's power was both a blessing and a burden. The light could heal and inspire, but it also demanded respect and balance. Those who sought to exploit its magic for selfish ends risked unleashing forces that could upset the delicate harmony of the natural world. Her gentle gaze fell upon Auric, and in that moment he understood that his presence in the cavern was no mere accident. It was part of a larger tapestry of fate. Over the ensuing days, Auric remained within the cavern under Leora's gentle tutelage. She taught him to listen to the silent language of the stones, to perceive the subtle interplay of light and energy that resonated throughout the cavern. Under her guidance, Auric learned to meditate by the crystalline pool, allowing its luminous energy to wash over him and reveal hidden truths about his own inner self. He discovered that the cavern's light could heal wounds, both physical and emotional, and that it had the power to awaken dormant potentials. In quiet moments of introspection, Auric experienced vivid visions of ancient times, of rituals performed under starlit skies, and of generations of people who had found solace and inspiration in the glow of the cave. Each vision was a thread in the rich tapestry of life, a reminder that every being was connected through the shared experiences of love, loss, hope, and wonder. In return for these profound lessons, Auric dedicated himself to preserving the sanctity of the cavern. Together with Leora, he meticulously recorded the cave's secrets, ensuring that future generations might learn from its timeless wisdom. They mapped the intricate network of passages, documented the properties of its glowing minerals, and inscribed the ancient petroglyphs that adorned its walls. Their work became a testament to the enduring magic of the luminous cavern, a legacy of knowledge that transcended the confines of time. Despite the sanctuary and enlightenment he found within the cavern, Auric's heart yearned to share its wonders with the outside world. Leora, understanding the call of destiny that beckoned him, explained that the lessons of the luminous cavern were not meant to be hoarded in solitude. The light was a universal language, meant to bridge the gap between disparate lives and awaken the dormant magic within every soul. With Leora's blessing, Auric emerged from the cavern into the bright light of day, forever changed by his experiences within the mountain's heart. He returned to his village, carrying with him both the tangible relics of his journey, a handful of luminescent crystals carefully wrapped in ancient cloth, and the intangible treasures of wisdom, healing, and hope. His return was met with wonder and skepticism in equal measure. But as he shared his story and the lessons he had learned, hearts began to open and eyes to see beyond the mundane. Auric established a small sanctuary near the base of the mountain, a place where people could come to experience the healing glow of the crystals and learn about the delicate balance between nature and magic. The sanctuary became a center for artists, philosophers, and seekers of truth. stories of the luminous cavern spread far and wide, inspiring travelers and scholars to embark on pilgrimages in search of that otherworldly light. Years passed, and the sanctuary flourished into a vibrant community united by a shared reverence for the mysteries of life. Arik, now a wise elder, continued to guide those who sought the healing power of the luminous crystals and the timeless lessons of the cavern. He would often recall his days in the depths of the mountain, sitting by the crystalline pool and listening to the soft, eternal hum of the earth's memory. In the twilight of his years, Arik composed a manuscript, a detailed chronicle of his journey, the teachings of Leora, and the profound transformations he had witnessed. The manuscript, filled with poetic reflections, intricate sketches of the cavern's luminescent formations, and carefully inscribed wisdom, became a treasured text among those who believed in the power of nature's hidden wonders. Children grew up hearing the tale of the luminous cavern, their imaginations ignited by the story of a cave that glowed with an eternal, otherworldly light. Families would make pilgrimages to the sanctuary, and scholars debated the origins of the light. Was it truly a remnant of celestial energy, or the manifestation of something far deeper within the fabric of the earth? The mystery endured, a reminder that some questions are meant to inspire wonder rather than to be answered. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world was draped in the soft hues of a new day, the legacy of the luminous cavern shone brightest. The sanctuary thrived as a beacon of hope, its luminescent crystals a constant reminder of the magic that resided both in the natural world and within every human heart. Arik's manuscript was passed down through generations, each reader finding within its pages a spark of inspiration and the courage to seek out the mysteries that lay hidden in the world. Leora, the guardian of light, remained ever vigilant within the cavern, her presence a silent promise that the delicate interplay between darkness and luminescence would endure. The cave's otherworldly glow continued to pulse through the mountain, a living testament to the eternal bond between the earth and the cosmos. And so, the tale of the cave that glowed with an otherworldly light was woven into the tapestry of human lore, a story of discovery, transformation, and the timeless quest to find light in even the darkest corners of existence. Thus, as the sun rose over the ancient peaks and the stars faded into the promise of a new day, the luminous cavern continued to whisper its secrets to those who were willing to listen. A quiet, radiant reminder that the magic of the world is eternal and that sometimes the most profound illumination comes from venturing deep into the unknown.